Okay, welcome everyone. Today's conversation is about digital transformation, and in particular, the human side of digital transformation in business. And I am joined by Kamales Lardi, who is the author of a book that is called The Human Side of Digital Business Transformation. Welcome.
Thank you, Bernard. It's a pleasure to join you here today.
Yes, it's nice to have you with us. So, you run your own consulting organization. You're also a teaching fellow at Durham University Business School, and you're a member of the Forbes Business Council Women Executives. So, you've worked in the digital space for many years. What made you write your book on digital transformation and the human side of it?
Well, I've been in the space of digital transformation, and oftentimes we think that digital transformation is something that appeared over the last couple of years, but we've had transformation in terms of digital application as long as we've had technology application in business since the 80s, and we've gone through these cycles of implementation of new types of technologies, from knowledge management to social media, and currently we're seeing lots of emerging technologies in business application.
Mm.
I started out in the tech industry in the mid 90s, and I've over the last 2 decades, over the last sort of 23 years, I've noticed that companies do tend to underestimate the human aspect of technology application. And this is really a shame because technology application is kind of an enabler for business success. The real success factor, the real kind of element that could make or break digital transformation is the human factor. And so this is what triggered me to kind of gather this collection of experiences that I've had over 2 decades with companies across the globe, across various industries, and really try to bring a kind of learnings or kind of a playbook for business leaders to follow. Doesn't matter which industry you're in, but really taking a look at what are these human elements and how do we ensure success when we implement digital transformation in our organization.
Very good. Yeah, I'd love to dive into all the human elements and what basically makes or breaks digital transformation. Before we do this, though, do you want to give me a brief overview of your interpretation of digital transformation? Do you think it is still relevant? How important is it? And basically, what do businesses need to know about digital transformation today?
This is so relevant, the question that you're asking right now, because I've received this question quite a few times from business leaders and senior executives. Is digital transformation still relevant? Haven't we all applied technology now in our business environment? Do we still need to focus on this? My view is digital transformation, it's not just about technology implementation. It's not a project that you have a start date and an end date in your company where you apply a new technology and you kind of deliver that technology implementation and see its outcome. Digital transformation for me is an organization wide change that utilizes technology solutions to create value, to deliver value, and to capture value in your organization. It really is an essential element in our current digital economy. It's going to test your business strategies, your business models, the way you organize your company, the way you lead your people. It's going to test this environment for the digital future. And many companies need to look at digital transformation, I would suggest, as a evolution. As you go along, as we enter more into the digital landscape or digital economy, we need to keep in mind how technology is disrupting our organizations, the way we do business, the way we create value in the market and for our customers, and how we can apply these technology solutions to do what we do better and do what we do in a different way. And I think this is the kind of core of digital transformation. It isn't just about the technology. Technology isn't a silver bullet solution for our business issues, but it's really about looking at how do we engage better with our customers? What channels do we use? How do we find new ways to create value for customers? How do we create products and services that could create or generate revenue for our future? How do we organize our company, the people, the organization structures, the processes, the operations? How do we optimize that in a better way with the technologies that are available to us? And of course, what kinds of business models would be relevant for the future? And here, with the rate of technology development that we're looking at, we're not looking at a 10-year strategic cycle of our business. So we're looking really at every 3 to 4 years, business models having to be tested for relevance in the market. Is this business model going to be strategically relevant for the digital economy in the next couple of years? These are questions that I do believe companies need to continuously ask themselves.
Yeah, I very much agree. And the way I see this is that you have to see this as a continuous evolution. And what I expect to see over the next 10 years is actually an acceleration of digital transformation. We've now had an acceleration during COVID where every company realized, okay, we need to really digitally transform, we need to digitize our processes. This has now happened. Lots of organizations have replatformed to the cloud. They've done all the right things,
Mhm.
but there are other amazing technologies on the horizon, like artificial intelligence, like mixed reality, like blockchain, that will continue to drive transformation. So what do you see as some of the drivers of digital transformation over the coming years?
There are several factors that really come together. So if we talk about, you mentioned technology development, the rapid pace of tech development is one of it, right? We're seeing breakthrough technologies come out almost on a daily basis. We're seeing this massive kind of trend cycles over the years. 2 or 3 years ago, it was blockchain and crypto, and last year it was the metaverse. This year is all about Chat GPT and generative AI. So there's these cycles going on, and I think this creates an element of confusion as well as an element of misinformation for many business leaders. Where do we start? What is the relevant technology to apply? And these disruptive technologies can create exponential growth and scale for companies, but at the same time, where do you put your limited resources and where do you put your limited investments as an organization?
Mm,
There's also this element of consumer behavior, and this has been accelerated by the COVID pandemic, right? We're seeing adoption of technology, people becoming far more comfortable with digital communication and acquisition channels, and wanting to interact and communicate with brands on these channels as well. So the demand for digital from the consumer side has rapidly increased. And many organizations were just not prepared for it. That was one of the most shocking elements when we went into the kind of COVID lockdown. Many companies were just not ready for that non-physical, low-touch economy. And then
mm,
we have also this massive push in terms of the competitive landscape. We're seeing organizations break through industry barriers and break through
mm,
traditional business boundaries. Tech companies starting to enter pharma, insurance, financial services, and so many other, even video streaming, for example, right? So breaking through these traditional industry boundaries and creating competition. And the massive growth of startups, for example, companies that start today have access to a global marketplace, which traditional organizations did not have. Their
mm.
way of kind of expanding into new markets involved creating a physical presence in those markets, whereas startups have access beyond the physical environment. So I think a lot of these elements really push organizations into a situation where digital transformation is not just a strategic initiative anymore, but it is the center of your business strategy. It has to be the center of your business strategy. And this involves a mindset shift in terms of how organizations do strategic planning, how they address new trends that are developing, the kind of skill sets that you need within organizations, the kind of people that you need, the team structures. All of these things are being disrupted at the same time.
Which brings us nicely to the core of your book. So you talk about the human side of digital transformation. Do you want to outline what that is and why this is so important?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I did notice was the title of the book is kind of misleading because many business leaders tend to associate the human side of something with change management. And I do go into a fair amount of detail in the book about this. Change management does actually fall short of what is needed in digital transformation to make it truly successful for an organization. There's an element of understanding that, an organization, if I can create or share an analogy, an organization for me is like a living organism. It's a living, breathing, environment that's made up of systems and cultures and values, beliefs, the behaviors of the people within the organization, and this environment, very much like any other living organism, like the human body. When you introduce a new change to this environment, it resists.
Mhm.
Very much like how if you introduce a virus to the human body, we resist by creating a fever and pushing back on this new element. So the unfortunate thing within an organizational environment is sometimes this new element that's being introduced, it's not a negative. It could be a new trend, it could be a new opportunity, a market opportunity, a new technology solution that could accelerate and grow the organization. And so the business environment reacts in a similar way by pushing back on these new opportunities as well. It falls back on traditional trends and past successes, and it goes back to kind of status quo and says, this is what we've done all the time and this is how we've been successful, we're going to stick with this. And so when you introduce digital transformation, which is a massive amount of disruption organization wide, the resistance can be significant, and the resistance comes mainly from the people element in the organization. Your board members and leadership teams who are meant to drive and lead this change, they tend to resist because they don't understand or they fear these new environments that involve technology, perhaps, that they don't understand. You might have, for example, employees who resist the change because they fear losing their jobs or they fear skill sets that they may not have being needed in this new environment. You also have, for example, your customer base who are demanding these changes and very quickly able to switch to new organizations or to other service providers or other service offerings in the market if they don't get what they need from your organization. And also, you have a key player within this ecosystem, which are your kind of service providers, your technology vendors, your collaborators and partners in your business ecosystem that are meant to support these changes and meant to provide kind of the technology capabilities and skill sets to help organizations drive change. So all of these different players resist the change in their environment. And this is what I talk about in the book. It really looks at how do you create this ecosystem of stakeholders that come together, internal and external stakeholders, that build a business ecosystem that will help your organization survive and thrive in the digital future. And this is your kind of step-by-step guide that's provided in the book.
Very good. So are you able to summarize some of the key components of the human side of digital transformation? What are the key aspects of it?
So in the book, I do actually go into a fair amount of detail of some of these aspects. And it is a journey. I did try to kind of detail out the journey that an organization has to go through. And the journey starts from the point of understanding what your purpose of the organization is and what are some of the kind of foundation values that an organization needs. And this is all the more important today if we're looking at some of the developments that are happening in the business landscape in terms of layoffs, in terms of some of the organizations crumbling in the current digital economy and so on. Having a strong purpose and values that you can fall on, and having this purpose that you can kind of rally the organizational members towards is so critical. Many organizations, and this was a interesting debate that I had recently, Bernard. Um, what is the purpose of an organization? Is it really about financial gains, or is the purpose of an organization to create value in the market, to create value for its customers? And what that value is, how do you define this value? This is something that I think is a fundamental mindset shift that needs to happen in the business landscape. Companies are not just here to make money. Companies serve a purpose in our global economy, in our global community. and how do organizations identify this value and live this value? So that's the starting point in the book in terms of what is the human side of transformation. But I do also go into a fair amount of detail on a step by step framework that companies can take, understanding your current business landscape, how the trends and developments impact your company. What do you have today that you can leverage on, and how do you build on things that you don't have in your organization? And then going into kind of building a roadmap for how do you transform from where you are today to where you want to get to, as well as really driving the change across in terms of different technology implementations. What is the right technology that you should have in your organization? And here there's really an element of looking at the core of your organization and the edge, which is something that I do detail out in the book as well. Core being your current business environment. How do you optimize, change, transform your existing environment? Edge being new technology implementations, new solutions, new things that you need to explore and try out. And how do you drive these core and edge initiatives in the same energy or at the same time, in alignment with one another? And this is a big challenge that many companies face at the moment. So, this entire journey is detailed out in the book.
Very good. Do you have any examples, some of your favorite examples of organizations that you feel are doing this well, when it comes to this human side of digital transformation? And can you describe what they have done that makes you think they're doing this well?
I think the question is actually a really challenging one to answer, because what we're seeing in the market is over 70% of digital transformation initiatives are either failing or falling short of their intended outcome. And this is a significant statistic, because it really means that companies are not really getting it right yet. And what I believe is digital transformation, as we said, it is an evolution. It's not a start and end. So companies, as you go along the journey, you never really find an end point, because you have to continuously evolve and change with your environment. I believe the companies that have been successful in doing this are the ones that are able to really tap into the human element, tap into continuous communication, the ones that have strong leadership, and leadership of not just driving and engaging with the people, but really demonstrating vulnerability, empathy, demonstrating courage in the way they address changes in the organization, empowering people in terms of what organizations need to, really looking at your employee base, really looking at the people within your organization. How do we empower them? How do we give them the right tools and capabilities to go on this journey with us? Those are the organizations that are truly successful in this evolution process. The ones that are struggling, we see them in the market today. Many of the tech companies, for example, don't fall back on their basic, human values. They don't demonstrate the purpose that they should be serving within the global economy, and we're seeing them struggle today. So these are some of the companies where I believe we truly need an overhaul, perhaps, of their leadership teams, to start looking at more of kind of human values and human-based technology development. So these are some of the elements that I would say could be good examples in the market.
Very good. So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges then when it comes to digital transformation?
Um, as someone who consults for organizations across the globe, as well as for leadership teams, I think the biggest challenge is the mindset shift. We need to think about organizations in a different way. We need to think about transformation and technology in a different way as well. Many organizations still fall back on their traditional ways of doing things. And I think this is a massive challenge, because the business environment that we're in today, it's not traditional anymore. We are in a completely new environment, driven by technology changes, driven by consumer behavior, driven by competitive environments. We need to think differently in order to do things differently. So that, for me, is one of the major shifts. COVID has been a massive support in that, though, because before the COVID pandemic, conversations with business leaders that I've had were always around, do we really need transformation? What is the benefit of implementing something? What could a new technology bring into our business environment? The common phrase that I heard before the pandemic was, we've always done things this way, we're doing well in this environment, there's no need to change. And after the pandemic, I think this mindset shifted where business leaders started to recognize, okay, the global economic environment is shifting. There's a massive amount of uncertainty. Things could change overnight. We need to start exploring how we do things differently. But we're seeing over the last 6 months, companies fall back on this traditional way of doing things and kind of falling back into that complacent mindset, which I think, we need to keep ourselves on the toes. We're not really out of that economic uncertainty yet. The second biggest element I would say is focusing too much on the technology implementation rather than focusing on organization wide changes that are required. Technology is, for me, simply an enabler. It's a fantastic enabler that allows us to create hyper personalized interactions and engagements, exponential growth and scale, and it really allows us to redefine the way we do business. But in order for technology to be successful in the business environment, we need the operations, the processes, we need the people, the skills and capabilities, we need the governance structures, and all of these elements playing into those implementations as well, and looking really at the holistic environment and how we can transform the organization as a whole rather than just one project.
Yeah, I completely agree. So technology is clearly an enabler. In terms of technology, all the things I believe can be solved pretty easily. There's lots of technology readily available that we can deploy in our organizations. What is stopping organizations from doing it successfully is around the human side. It's around culture, it's around leadership, it's around skills, it's around awareness. So I very much agree with you. So if anyone is listening in thinking, okay, I want to drive successful digital transformation in my organization, what would you say to them? What would be your top tips or key takeaways from your book?
The key takeaway would be really look at where your organization is today, and think about what is the objective you want to achieve with your digital transformation initiative. I think one of the major issues that we face in an organization, and based on my experience working with many different companies, the people leading the transformation initiative tend to believe in the outcomes that they can produce. What they find challenging is convincing their leadership teams to get on board, to buy in, to take ownership of these changes. So the leadership element is a crucial element in terms of ensuring that you have your leadership sponsors, you have them driving the initiatives. And most of the kind of fairly successful transformation initiatives that I've led within companies have always been with leadership teams driving those changes. And here, I really think business leaders, C-level executives, board members, there is and in my experience of engaging with them, there is a certain fear of not understanding the technology, not understanding the changes that could be implemented. And the fear of kind of losing control. We're driving a new way of doing things. And this could be very different from the way you've led your organization over the past 30, 40 years. So the fear element is something that I would address. This comes with communication, comes with education, handholding. A lot of the digital mindset coaching that I do with leadership teams takes them through this mindset shift on how do you lead organizations of intelligent, technically advanced people? How do you drive transformation in your organization? The other thing I would really encourage people who are driving transformation to focus on is aligning your initiatives to your business outcomes, your business objectives. How do these initiatives contribute to commercial business outcomes? And I think this is something that it's not so straightforward to do, especially if you're implementing new tech, right? It's at times they are not implementations that have a proven track record, and it's an exploration piece. You've got to, if you think about AI based solutions or blockchain or things like that, or even the metaverse, if you're implementing this for a business, how do you align this to a commercial outcome? What do you measure as success? These are things that really need focus, because if you can link your initiatives back to your business outcomes, this is when you can demonstrate strong capabilities, strong values, and you can show the organization we need to keep investing in these directions because there's an outcome that we're producing. And it might not be financial outcomes. That you have to look at kind of your holistic business KPIs that you're tracking, but this link is fairly important.
Yeah, again, I very much agree. I know, I think that the times I've used the word "start with your strategy"
Mhm.
when I speak to senior leaders, it must be in the millions, and this for me is the key message that I would send out. And you're absolutely right. When it comes to measures, this can be a challenge because we want to make sure that any technology, any digital transformation initiative is driven by real needs of your customers, by real needs of the market, and it should support your core business objectives. At the same time, I think it's really important to look ahead, to think, okay, maybe there's something in the metaverse and blockchain and is going to transform our world in the future. So if I have that foresight, I can then justify this by saying we need to start to experiment and build some of those skills, maybe sometimes just in case, or because we believe that this is where the world is going. I think that is really important.
I think this is also an element you just mentioned, which I find quite critical. Organizations need to start building those capabilities and skills internally.
Mm,
I mean, there are many companies that I've engaged with. One example is a health insurer here in Europe that um, has such a large number of external providers within the IT organizations that they have created a strong dependency on these organizations. For
mm,
every 3 employees in the IT, they have one person from the internal environment and 2 from the external, so external providers. So they're not really building the capabilities and the skill sets required within the organization. And there's a huge amount of dependency that you're seeing with these external providers. So if something happens to these tech providers, or if something shifts in the business landscape, the outcomes could be quite detrimental to their business. And
mm,
so companies need to really think about, how do I bring these skill sets internal? How do I create the knowledge that I need within my own business environment? And how do I grow that knowledge and those capabilities, right? So to a certain extent, internalizing, there is definitely a need for the external and internal collaborators and really bringing in skill sets, but this shouldn't create negative dependencies, I would
mm.
believe. So this is one of the things I would recommend as well.
Very good. What about the future are you most concerned about or scared about?
Um, this is an interesting question. I think there are a couple of things that I'm concerned about. One is, I would say, the trends that we're seeing, the alarming trends around technology development. We, as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing kind of this shift from focus of blockchain and crypto over to metaverse, and now we're seeing AI and chat GPT and so on. And the kind of concerns and headlines that we see out there, I think we need to start shifting through a lot of these content and really focus on what is the true business value we
Mm,
can get from some of these technologies as a company. Where do we need to focus our investments and attention? uh, are these technologies really the ones that are going to disrupt our business? It could be quite sexy at the moment to talk about chat gpt, and granted, it is an incredible capability out there in the market today that's accessible and affordable as well. But there are a myriad of other technologies that can add value to business. And I think companies need to kind of, especially business leaders and people involved in transformation, need to stay in touch with the range of developments that are happening. The question for me isn't about, is this technology going to replace the human capability? It's more about, how do we enable this technology for our business and for our business future? The second element, which concerns me quite a bit, is the shift in values that are happening. Um, we're seeing a massive shift now. If I take a provocative example with Twitter, the kind of tone, the language, the values that are being demonstrated by the new leadership, by the communication and content that I'm seeing online. Twitter used to be the place that you go to engage with people from across the world for insights, for knowledge, for truth. And that's shifting a little bit. And I think tech companies play a massive role. These social media platforms and tech companies have the ability to shift mindsets. They have the ability to trigger new behaviors in people, shifts in behaviors in people. This is a massive responsibility, which I don't think is being utilized in the best way at the moment. So, this is something that concerns me significantly. Another element is really around diversity. And I know this is something that probably you hear lots of women in tech talk about, but it is a real concern.
Hmm.
We have not seen a significant amount of shift. We've not seen diversification of technology enough. 2 weeks ago, I read another story about someone who was in the Marriott and tried to use a soap dispenser, one of those sensor dispensers. And it was such a clear cut example of how technology development, even the simplest case of tech development, is not applying diversity in its development and testing, because the soap dispenser would dispense soap to someone with white skin or with pale skin, but not to someone with darker skin. And oftentimes this is a question of bringing in diversity of thought into the innovation process, into the development process, bringing in a range of people who can bring forth some of these hidden blind spots for organizations. But it is also a question of a simple thing around testing. Are you testing your product on a diverse set of people? And so it's a simple example, but it's shocking in 2023 that this example still exists. With
Hmm.
the rate of tech development and with the impact technologies are having in our lives, in healthcare, in financial services, in pretty much everything we do, that diversity is missing. And I think that's still very concerning for me.
Yeah, I 100% echo this. And for me, there's no excuse to, even
Mhm.
if your current data set doesn't represent the diversity that you need, we now have the ability to create synthetic data, to take out some of the biases in our data, and create models and machines that are more representative. So hugely important. I agree. And what about the future are you most excited about?
I am excited about technology.
Mm.
I really think it's two sides of the same coin. But tech development, the rate of development, the new solutions, and the new kind of capabilities we're seeing in the market. We talk a lot about ChatGPT, but there are a myriad of AI-based tools that make life as a business owner so much easier. There is a platform that I use that allows me to build a team of AI experts, right? Employees who are experts in the legal side, in accounting, in social media, that I can go to for questions, who provide me quite intelligent answers. And they're not real people, they're just a platform. And all of these capabilities are affordable. And that is the most, I think, exciting thing about this. They're not just for the big companies with the big pockets or the big money, but they're for everyone. And I think this is where I'm seeing a lot of opportunity coming out for businesses. It isn't about replacing people, but it's about doing what we do more effectively and efficiently, accelerating the way we do business. And I think this is exciting. The convergence of tech solutions, for example, bringing together AI and blockchain, AI creating the kind of rapid analysis and data manipulation that we need for quick decision making, and blockchain bringing in transparency and capabilities around data sourcing and accuracy. Exciting things coming out of this. So I'm looking forward to some of these new technology developments. And I'm also very excited about people. I think the next generation of people are coming in, the millennials, the Gen Zs, the alpha generation. My daughter is a Gen Z, Gen Z alpha. she'll argue with me about this, but she's 12, she's on the cusp. um, they are demanding a complete new set of values from organizations. My daughter doesn't believe in traditional banking, for example. She's already generating revenue with online businesses, with her social media channels. It's crazy to see the level of development that technology has enabled these new generation of people. They're not going to accept the traditional 9 to 5 organizations. They're not going to accept the traditional services and capabilities companies are still offering. And I think this is what we need, this kind of new generation of people just demanding for more.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing thoughts with us today. Good luck with your book and with everything else in your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernard.
Thank you. Anyone who ever wants to re-listen or re-watch this conversation, simply head to my YouTube channel or my podcast. Thank you very much.